morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to look at a new Pokemon tool card. And given that we've just looked recently today at a card that helps water Pokemon, after showing off Inteleon VMAX yesterday, and we looked at a stadium that helps grass Pokemon after having looked at Rillaboom VMAX yesterday, we did also look at Cinderace VMAX yesterday, and yet we've not looked at any specific card that will help us out in that regard. That seems a little bit rude, so let's fix that, shall we, by having a bit of a gander at Burning Scarf. Now, this translation here does come from the lovely Joe over at Cerebi.net, and it is for fire Pokemon, like literally for fire Pokemon. According to Joe, when the fire Pokemon this card is attached to is damaged by an opponent's attack, the attacking Pokemon is now burned. So you whack this on a fire Pokemon, that fire Pokemon takes damage from your opponent's attack, and then they're burned. It's alright. Now, the thing is that this isn't exactly completely unique. We have seen things along these lines before. You see, we had Poison Barb. Poison Barb was a tool card. Now, it wasn't just for a specific type, it was for any Pokemon. But Poison Barb attached to a Pokemon, and if that Pokemon is damaged by an attack, the attacking Pokemon is now poisoned. And fairly recently, we got Ear Ringing Bell, which is a very similar thing. It is attached to a Pokemon. Again, any Pokemon, it's not type specific. And if they are damaged by an opponent's attack, the attacking Pokemon is now confused. Well, now we've got another one for burn, and it's a little bit strange to me that this is only for fire Pokemon. Because Poison Barb was for anyone, and Ear Ringing Bell was for anyone. So is this Pokemon's way of telling us that they believe that burn is inherently better than poison or confusion? Because I don't think that's true. Certainly, burn has not been a particularly good typing over the past few years. One thing I will say, there was a deck a little while ago, I believe it was Carl Peters if I remember correctly, did take down a fairly large, I think it's a special event over in Europe, and it was a poison deck using stuff like Poison Barb, and using stuff like Viper to increase the poison, and then using stuff like the promo Tapu Koko, no, the Tapu Lele that was a promo but then stopped being a promo, to move the damage all around. It's very cool. Can we make a deck like that here? And the answer is we can, and the extra damage is good, but it's a little bit in our opponent's control, possibly more than we might like. So burn, for those of you that may have forgotten, it did change a little while ago. The deal with burn is that when a Pokemon is burned, between turns they take 2 damage, and then they flip a coin. If heads, they're no longer burned. The great thing here is that the burn happens coming into your turn. So your opponent will attack you, they'll get burned, they take 2 damage, or 2 damage counters, and then they flip a coin. If heads, they're no longer burned. If tails, they are still burned. And you can absolutely take advantage of this. Now, there are a couple of cards, incidentally, that will really, really help out here. One of the ones we're looking at, Weller Volcano Park. You see, Weller Volcano Park is a stadium card whereby if a Pokemon is burned and they flip heads, yeah, they stay burned. Burn does not get removed even if somebody flips heads. This is a good thing. But we've also got Infernape. And Infernape, it comes in 2 flavors, a fighting flavor and somewhat more obviously a fire flavor, what with the whole burn thing. And what Infernape does, either of them, same ability, literally the same card, different typings, they mean that a Pokemon who is burned, your opponent's Pokemon that is burned, has to take 6 damage counters between turns, rather than the usual 2. This is a good thing for you, because if they're taking 6 damage counters between turns, and they don't get to flip heads out of it, all of a sudden burn becomes a phenomenal special condition. However, This isn't like some easy thing that's just always going to happen. The scenario I've just outlined for you involves having a stadium and a stage 2. Now, there is one deck that is fire and can play the Infernate very easily. It's Chandelier. The Chandelier that for 1 fire energy does 10 damage, and you discard the top 5 cards of your deck, and you do an extra 60 for each Pokemon you discarded, but any fire Pokemon you discarded get put straight onto your bench. So if you're playing a Chandelier deck, you can play it with Infernape, and then hopefully what you'll do is you'll hit Infernape while you're attacking, it will add 60 to your attack, and it will put Infernape right onto the bench. And you can do this with Burning Scarf. The real question for Chandelier decks, of course, is you're playing a Stage 2. Stage 2 decks generally have a little less room in them. Are you actually going to have space for this? And there's a strong argument that you're not going to, but hey-ho, ladies and gentlemen, you can't win them all. It is there, and it is a good point, and Chandelier is one. But how about something like Reshiram and Charizard? You see, we're moving into a format with higher HPs, where you're going to have to do a little bit more damage in order to get a KO. So something like Reshiram and Charizard does 230, that's not even enough to KO something like Pikachu and Zekrom, which incidentally is remaining one of the best cards and decks in the format moving forward. So with Reshiram and Charizard, you whack one of these on there, your opponent attacks with Pikachu and Zekrom, and all of a sudden they're burned and they take an extra 2 damage, and then that 230 with which you're hitting is enough to get a KO. Maybe they can gust around, maybe they're playing Custom Catcher, maybe they're playing Great Catcher and you've got a GX on the field, on the bench, but maybe not. Because the thing is, we don't have Field Blower at the moment. The only thing we have that removes tools really is Faber. And although Faber does see play in some decks, it doesn't see play in enough decks. Not to make us really worried about playing a tool like this. So your opponent's unable to get rid of it. And I use Pikachu and Zekrom as an example for 2 reasons. Firstly, yeah, you get to hit the extra 20 and that puts you into KO range. But secondly, they've got to attack to get Full Blitz. Full Blitz doesn't just do 150 damage, it also accelerates free energy from the deck. And that means that not attacking puts them behind in terms of the energy that they're expecting and needing to have on the field, but attacking then puts them in KO range. Now, maybe with Vitality Band out, it's less of an issue, because Vitality Band does an extra 10, means that Reshiram and Charizard can KO Pikachu and Zekrom. But 2 things right off the bat here, okay? Number 1, the Pikachu and Zekrom is just an example. There are a million other times that you just get a KO because of burn damage. And secondly, you do need to put this up against Vitality Band. Because Vitality Band will just do an extra 10 damage. This gives you the possibility of 20 damage if they attack into you. And it is a guarantee, incidentally. But they control who's attacking, they control when they're attacking. And although you can put them in awkward situations where they don't really have a choice, they always technically and actually have a choice. But let's not forget that burn builds up over time. It's not some they just take 20 damage, and this is where this can really come in big. Because if your opponent hits you, they take 20 damage from burn and flip a coin. There is a 50% chance they're going to flip a tails. If they flip tails, they will take the extra 20 after your turn. Because they don't get a chance to move unless you gust around them, i.e. you bring one of their bench Pokemon active. And there's no flip until after they've taken the next 20. So they will take 20 damage if they attack into you. But if they attack into you, they've got a 50% chance of taking 40 damage. Now, we were all playing Choice Band to do an extra 30 damage, but only to some Pokemon. This is a 50% chance of an extra 40 damage. And maybe it will never be good enough. Maybe your opponent can gust around. Maybe we'll get some more tool removal in the future, etc. But I do like this quite a lot more than I like Poison Barb, because Poison Barb was like 20 damage generally. this could be so much more. I'm giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. I still don't really understand why it's only for fire Pokemon. I love that thematically it makes sense, but when we've had cards for poison and confusion that worked on any typing, to then give something for burn that only works on fire Pokemon seems a little bit weird. But hey ho. For now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to know what you think about this card. I want to know if you're going to put it into any Fire decks, and if so, which Fire decks you're planning on putting it in. So go nuts in the comment section, but please remember the rule. Be nice, would you? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are still awesome. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.